This is the Spiritual Genius Show, the #1 podcast for unlocking more of your spiritual genius so you can really have it all. Get ready to discover timeless strategies and secrets you can use. You'll also hear from world-class entrepreneurs, leaders, athletes, and celebrities sharing how they've tapped into their spiritual genius, along with how you can do the same. Without further ado, here's your host, Yaakov Smart.
Welcome to today's episode. Today's guest is Kyleen Sabbaghian. In case you don't know Katie, she is a renowned spiritual teacher and healer, and she is the founder of Connecting with the Creator. She's been on quite a spiritual journey from an early age. She had a deep fascination for the mystical. And at the age of 17, get this, Katie began holding meditation groups and practice giving people readings. After her teen years, she was able to move to the States where her spiritual practice deepened and her spiritual abilities to communicate with spirit expanded to a deeper level. She's been here in Arizona for a little while. And really what Katie is known for, I first met Katie through a friend several years ago, is being able to channel energy and connect with the Creator and really open that up, not only teach other people how to do that, but to share that gift in healing and helping more people tap into their gifts and their divinity. So Katie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. No one's ever given such a long bio before. I love it.
I appreciate that. Where to even start? I guess this concept of the Creator, let's start there because it's a concept that's so foundational. What does the Creator mean to you?
So that's such a beautiful question. The Creator for me means source, God, the light within us. And to me, the Creator is the greatest love that exists in this entire universe that we can access through our very own soul.
Okay, awesome. So for people who maybe struggle to find that relationship, right? Or maybe they didn't grow up spiritual, or maybe they grew up in a religious household where it wasn't from love, right? Where they were forced to go to church or, whatever. What would you recommend for people that are just like kind of starting their spiritual journey if they want to reclaim that love from the Creator? Where do you recommend they start?
So here's the thing about the Creator. Until you don't experience it within yourself firsthand, no matter how many times someone else says to you, the Creator is amazing and it's real and can create miracles and loves you, it really doesn't mean anything until you have your own firsthand experience through your energy, through your own soul. So I always recommend for people when it comes to getting to know the Creator to not be book smart, but to actually step into experiences where they open themselves up energetically and allow that presence in. So where I suggest for people to always begin, and this is just my realm and the way I deal with it, is to begin with a channeling class of learning how to allow the Creator through your own being to feel that presence, to have an actual direct one-on-one experience of what it is to be in the Creator's presence and to be in partnership with the Creator. So that's always my suggestion, instead of telling people to just read a book, or something like that, if that makes any sense.
It makes complete sense to me. It may not make sense to someone listening. So I want to go a little deeper on that, right? I don't believe spirituality is something that you learn from a book. I believe a book can provide some solid foundation. It can give you some frameworks, but I believe you have to experience it, right? Because there's a cap on it being book smart about it. So I love that you said that. I love that you said start with experiencing. Maybe you can share one of your first experiences really tapping into that energy and how it started to shift things for you.
So to even back it up even further, and I'll tie that to what I'm about to say, is we're made up of our body, our heart, our mind, our vision, and our soul. And there's a lot out there right now that tells you how to sharpen your mind, which is all the mindset work out there, right? All the motivation out there. Like there's so much on sharpening your mind. There's so much on your body. regulate your nervous system, get your food in, get your workouts and all of that. But the creator is not only the form, it's also the formless. It is the presence of love that holds everything in this universe together. So in order for you to have a direct experience with the creator, you have to open up your soul to it, not just your mind, not just your body, right? You have to allow and learn. And it's a skill, Jakob. It's literally learning how to channel the creator is a skill like any other skill. Like you have to learn how to cook. You have to learn what weights to use at the gym, right? You have to learn how to channel the creator. It's a tool, right? So it's very important for people to know that, because when we've come to a place in humanity where when we're born and we're raised, they don't teach us how to access the creator, right? So along the way, we lose our connection very deeply. And I think one of the biggest pandemics happening on the planet right now, or on the earth right now, is that people literally do not know how to connect to the creator. It's just not a tool that we're taught anymore. So I feel like that's my mission, is to literally teach people how to connect to something that already lives within inside of them, that's already their birthright, that's already ready to come through and touch them, but they've just lost their passageway of how to access it.
I think that's beautifully said. I think there's a lot about mindset. There's a lot about body. There's not that much about soul. And some of the stuff that is there about soul, it's not delivered in a way where it makes sense to people, right? And I think that's part of the core issue that you're solving. So here's a question for you. So you mentioned that this connecting with the creator, connecting the soul, it's not taught to children, right? It's not taught to adults. People really literally seek it out, right? Some people do. And I'm curious, because this is a rabbit hole sometimes I go down. Do you think there was a time in history where it was taught to children, where people were much more into?
Absolutely. I really, really do. I think there have been times, especially in ancient civilizations, where it was actually just a natural way of life. I also believe there were times in our history where we were just way more connected than we are now. So, I don't think, I think history is like this, we gain consciousness and then we kind of devolve, and then we gain consciousness and we kind of devolve. I don't think it's been a slope. I think we've gained it and lost it a few times in history.
Well, it's interesting you say that, right? Because, people say these ancient civilizations that now we're so advanced, but I would say in a lot of ways, maybe we're not as advanced, right? Who built the pyramids? And there's all this fascinating stuff that came from some higher energy. I don't think human beings in this consciousness did that.
Yeah, exactly. Or humans were of a higher consciousness back then. Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing, and now we're really going down such a sidetrack rabbit hole, but it's very important that human spirituality evolves as fast as human science and technology. Because if not, humans misuse technology very deeply if they're not as spiritually evolved.
Yeah. So for people listening, and I agree with that, I think that's really, really important. What does being spiritually evolved, what does that mean to you?
To me, spiritually evolved means being spiritually mature. And the word mature means leading from the heart. So someone who is spiritually evolved is someone who is literally listening to their heart's voice in every aspect of their life, in the decisions that they make, in the way that they treat others, and the way that they treat themselves. Because the heart is our GPS system. The heart is the one that tells us, should I eat an orange today or should I eat the cake today? Our heart's the one that says, should I go with this tax accountant or this one? Or our heart's the one that says, should I date this guy or this guy, right? Or this girl or this girl? Our heart's literally our GPS system that the creator created to really protect us here on earth. And a part of being disconnected from the creator right now is we're also disconnected from our own heart. So a lot of people are having a harder time feeling through life because they're not as connected to their GPS system anymore. And to me, a part of being, I don't even like the word evolved. I like to use the word spiritually mature. To me, being a mature being is someone who is listening to their heart as much as they possibly can.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think I've experienced periods of my life where that was lost, where I wasn't listening to my heart at all. It was all, and it's interesting, right? When we talk about fear and love, right? You think of the heart, you think of love. And I think it can be easy, especially with all the, and this is my take on technology, a lot of this stuff is designed to make people reactive. Boom, there's a notification on the phone. Boom, that's happening. Oh, this stuff's happening on the news. That reactive fear-based consciousness actually, I believe, goes against the heart. So it's the exact opposite.
And it's so distracting.
Mm-hmm.
It's also so distracting. Like, you're scrolling through and the 30 minutes has just passed by.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could have been doing something so much better,
Yeah. And it's easy that touch is lost, because I think sometimes this is just in my practice, being more in touch with the heart comes from stillness. It comes from silence. It comes from giving it space. It's not like, okay, now I'm going to force it. I don't think you can force being in your heart.
Absolutely. It absolutely comes from stillness. And to me, it also comes from learning how to connect to the creator, because when you learn how to connect to the creator, you are in essence using your heart to do that. The creator uses your heart very deeply. So I think the two are so interconnected.
So in your personal practice, right, if people were to follow you around for a day or two, right, behind the scenes of, how do you integrate this into your day-to-day life? Because I think a lot of people that listen to the show aren't necessarily spiritual teachers or healers. They're people who have businesses, they have everyday lives, responsibilities. There's an interest in spirituality, but I feel like sometimes the disconnect is they don't understand how do I do this, right? And it goes to the mind. So I think people would be curious, where is your integration and what do you consider your spiritual practice today?
Okay. So the first thing I have to say about all of that is, to me, a whole life, like to have a life that is complete, that is whole. That's what I mean. Whole life is not whole unless it's centered around the creator, because the creator is the source of everything good in our life. The creator is the one that gives us life. The creator is the one that has given us our missions and our purpose here on earth. The creator is the reason we exist and is the reason we are, created to keep creating, right? So for me, a life that's not centered around the creator is just not a whole life. So, for me, when you say integrated, I don't feel integrated without having the creator in my practice. If not, I actually feel really, really off. Like if I miss a day of my own personal practice. So that's the first thing I want to begin with, is that I don't think we just have it so the opposite way around right now, which is like we focus so much on our practical lives and what we got to do every day and what we got to achieve and what we've got to accomplish and where we got to go and getting up the ladder of life and status and whatever, that we've forgotten that we actually have to center our lives around the creator. So given that, I feel like the creator is worthy of having 5% of our day. The creator is worthy of that, because 5% of 24 hours is how much? An hour and 15 minutes. That's what 5% of 24 hours is. And so my practice is I give the creator 10%. I give the creator 10% because I just see the value in it. So I always do an hour of connecting with the creator in the morning and an hour at night. I do the morning to really prepare for my day, because also remember that the creator is all seeing. It's this all-seeing presence within inside of you that already knows what's going to happen for you that day. It knows where you're going. It knows what you're going to need. It knows what conflict is about to arise that day, or where your strong suits are going to be that day, where your weak suits are going to be, where you're going to be patient, where you're not going to be patient. So starting the day off with a creator is incredible because it almost protects your day to come. It protects everything that may happen that you may need some extra cushion in. And it also blesses your day to be filled with an inspiration and hopefulness and positivity and just love. And so that's my morning practice. Is an hour in the morning, I'll connect to the creator and channel. And all I do is sit there, open up my channel, which is something you have to learn. This isn't something I could teach over, a quick podcast. And I let that presence come through and consume my entire being and fill me up with everything that it wants to give me. And then at night, I do another hour. I do that hour to close down the day, to bring back to place anything that may have gone off course a little bit, or places where I may be tired that I need, the creator to just bless me with, right? Or maybe there was a little bit of a discord that day. I want the creator to put everything back into place. So, my nighttime is just to make sure that I fall asleep in a place of balance, because if we don't sleep from a balanced place, we take it then into our next day, right? So to me, that's a part of being in Katie's world for a day. It's a little bit in the morning and a little bit of night. At night, I give the creator 10% of my day every day.
Okay. It's beautifully said,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, I think if people listening, it sounds like solitude, but in a way it's really not. You're with the creator,
Yes.
it's quite the opposite of solitude.
Yeah.
Do you think that if people have a significant other that they live with, or if they have children, do you think that could be like a family practice where they could do what you're talking about?
I think if it's a family practice, it strengthens the family so deeply. If loved ones do it together, partners do it together, it strengthens their partnership very deeply. And again, I know we're in such a busy world, and I know parents have to be parents, and they have to take care of their kids, and they have to do all of this stuff and drop kids off and then go to work. And so that's why I'm saying some people can't do 10%, even 5%. Giving 5% of their day to the creator will make such a huge difference, Jaco. Such a huge difference. Their life will flow through so much more smoothly, because the creator is the source of everything. It's the source of your health. It's the source of your well-being. It's literally the presence that created all things. So if you're tapping into that every single day, it's going to protect your health. It's going to protect your relationships. It's going to protect your loved ones, your decision-making. It's going to protect the words that come out of your mouth, that we all need protection from sometimes, right? So it's like, for not connecting to the creator is like cutting yourself from the source of light that wants to literally give you everything. It's so counterintuitive, It's like walking this life alone when we don't need to, when we have this best friend that wants to watch over us every step of the way.
Beautifully said. So what's interesting about this concept, among many things, is, and I feel like sometimes people approach spirituality this way. If they're busy, there's a lot happening, they don't take the time. And then a month goes by, 2 months go by, 6 months go by. And then unfortunately or fortunately, something happens. It's a big knock, and it's like, shit, I should have taken the time. And now their consciousness is considerably lower to deal with it. So what I hear you saying, and this is just like other things, consistency is key here. You take 10% as opposed to taking 10 hours every 6 months, which, sometimes the industry sometimes does that, right? Oh, go to this retreat, and then people come back, and fortunately or unfortunately, it's back to normal, and the connection isn't quite as strong.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I actually don't mind retreats. I think retreats are a big reset, and I think we all need them. I'm in this line of work, and every 6 months I go on my own personal retreat just with myself, and
Awesome.
I'll take time and I'll pray, and I'll really, that's like my major reset. I think retreats are great things, but here's the thing. Like, you can't just do a retreat and then come back home and not establish it in your personal life on a day-to-day basis, because consistency is the key. Because let me give you an example. Let's just say, I'm going to come up with something really big here. You have a really awful disease and you want a healing for it. And in order to receive this healing, like the Creator wants to help you heal this, you have to drink this whole entire bottle of blessings. Let's just say this is the bottle of blessings that will help you heal from this incurable disease, right? We can't drink this whole bottle at once sometimes. Sometimes we can only accept little increments of blessings at the time because we're not ready, our subconscious is pushing back, our mind is holding on to things, right? So the consistency helps you to take little drops at a time every day until this whole bottle is drank, and then your miraculous healing happens. Or whatever's bothering you, it could be an issue with someone else or whatever it is comes to fruition for you, right? So that's why consistency is so important, because sometimes as humans, we all have a rate of acceptance. We can't accept all the miracle in at once. We have to accept the miracle in little increments until we're fully ready to just drink, to fully ready to receive the whole thing.
Yeah, it compounds. It's like the laws of physics. There's a compound effect to everything. And
yes,
same thing here.
Yeah. And as humans, we're very resistant. We're very, very resistant. It's very rare that we're able to receive a miracle immediately at once in one go. Out of all the clients that I work with, I would say we have miracles happen. We've had physical healings happen. We've had, mental, emotional healings happen. But most of the time, people have to stay in their own practice for a while and repeat it and stay in connection over and over and over again and keep receiving the Creator's blessings until they fully heal. Right? And then once in a while, when a soul is really ready and they're in a deep, deep surrender, not just mentally, but on a soul level, the miracle will happen instantaneously.
So it's a great topic. It's a great segue, talking about miracles, right? It's a word where it sometimes has a lot of charge. So in your perspective, what is a miracle?
To me, a miracle, first of all, is an absolute act of love from the Creator. It's a miracle, I feel like, should be natural for us, but they're not right now. Right now, if a miracle happens, it's almost like out of the ordinary. But to me, a miracle is any type of healing. Or any type of untying of a knot of a situation that was difficult, that happens completely out of the framework of what we thought our mind could see it as possible. So to me, that's what a miracle is. It's something where nothing in the laws of the physical world would explain it, but yet it happened. Because supernaturally there was a hand in it. So to me, that is a miracle. And I think it's an act of God, love from the Creator, because we are so loved. And for the Creator, no miracle is easy or harder. So if you, let's just say, want to manifest a Toyota or a Ferrari, it's the same for the Creator. But the problem is we have these layers of resistances where we won't accept. Like, our mind has these blocks where we may not be able to accept a Ferrari yet. we may only be able to accept a Toyota, right? And so the creator can only give you the miracle that you have an opening to be able to accept, if that makes any sense.
Mhm. Yeah, another way that I would put it too is like receiving incongruence, right? If you're not able to receive it or you're not congruent to having that in the 3D, you're not going to have that. You can the congruence can change immediately, right? Can change in an instant, right? But the way that I kind of look at it is it's that compound effect, right? Sometimes people are right on the cusp and that little bit, and all of a sudden it's a whole new reality. But that typically happens through compounding. Right.
Yes.
Otherwise, it would cause a train wreck in our lives, right? Imagine like if someone can't receive it and they get it, it would just be so overwhelming.
It would be so bad. It actually would. Yeah, it'd actually probably be more destructive than it would be good.
Yeah. So it's a great way to look at it.
Use it.
You know, it kind of reminds me, I'm sure you've had these experiences as well, where I've had a really high energy experiences where it was almost like out of body, like just blissed out experiences, right? And I remember those days, it was almost like I couldn't sleep as well. It was harder to function because my body, the physical body, was of a lower energy and couldn't quite receive that and hold that, right? So I think what you said about compounding, I just really want people to hear that because it's so important with their practice and then like understanding and embodying this stuff. It's not an overnight thing. It's not here's a magic switch and then I don't have to like, no, it's a privilege and a blessing to be able to partake in the journey. And I think that's what you're talking about here as well.
Absolutely. That's so, so true. It's like, and I think it's so, I always tell people don't judge your own rate of acceptance. And what I'm trying to say by that is don't judge how quickly you're able to receive what it is that you're wanting from the creator. Like don't judge, oh my God, my healing hasn't happened yet, but I've been doing my meditations for a month. Like don't judge that, because we are so human and sometimes we have to be so patient with ourselves. And let's just say two people have cancer and one person does one session and has a miraculous healing and the other person needs to work on it for a whole year in order for the healing to happen. Both were miracles. This doesn't make this any less of a miracle and vice versa. So I really think we need to be patient with ourselves when we're looking for a miracle or when we're looking for a healing. And to allow ourselves the time to be in the consistency in order for it to happen. The only reason a healing or a miracle would not happen or take place if you're directing your energy towards it is if the intention is insincere. If your intention is insincere, the creator can't give it to you because the creator only works with the desires that are true to your heart.
Well, I think it's a very, very important distinction, right? And I think this is especially when people talk about having intentions or visualizing something, and maybe you can give how you discern, right? Because sometimes it can be tricky. So it's like, is this an ego thing or a heart? So what in your personal practice and in your world, if you can explain it, maybe it might be hard to explain in words, but what's your discernment on that?
So here's the thing. Sometimes we genuinely don't know, right? Like, for instance, we could be, let's just say dating someone, right? We're like, creator, is this our soulmate or is this not? And we genuinely don't know. Like, we want to make the most, sincere, decision for ourselves. In those moments, sometimes you don't have to know the answer. Your only job is to stay connected to the creator every day, to stay in your practice every day, and the creator will reveal it to you. Because if you're allowing the creator to come through you every day and you're allowing its presence to fill you and you're giving it passageway, anything that's not for you cannot stay for too long. So even if we don't fully know if something's right for us or not, it's okay. Our only job is to stay fixated in our practice with the creator, allowing its presence to come through. And whatever is not right for us will not be able to stand with us for too long, or it literally just won't come to fruition. In fact, you'll just feel the door lock even harder. Like, I want this job, but it's really not opening, It's like the creator will actually shut it down even further.
I think that's a great distinction. I think it's just being observant in the process as well, right? What are the initial results that are showing up? What's the initial energy? And I think anyone can do this. It's just my perspective in terms of like, if you understand the range of energy that's available, right? You can look at someone, you can look at a place, and you can kind of feel the energy. And typically like energies attract like energies, right? It's kind of like, let's imagine there's a really nice hotel, a really nice resort. Why don't homeless people come in there? It's like, because they could. Like, I've gone to plenty of these resorts and not bought anything and just sat there with my laptop or read a book, but it attracts certain types of people and events, right? And so I think there's a level of trust in the creator and that we live in this perfect universe, and that you're going to be able to know whether it was really soul inspired or if it was just an ego thing. It comes to fruition, like you were saying, pretty quickly as long as you're paying attention.
Yeah. And here's the thing, when you work with the creator directly, the creator shuts doors down. Like if it's not meant for you, literally the crazy stuff will happen. If it's not meant for you, it will become obvious, or you'll go to enter into it and you'll feel a tremendous amount of unsafety, anxiety, like, God, I'm going into this meeting. I'm supposed to be so excited about it. Why am I not? Why is something not feeling good? Like, it will give you very clear signs. But again, in order for it to give you those clear signs, you have to give the creator time every day. So it has leg room to enter into your energy and to be able to access everything in your life. Because if not, you're literally pushing the creator all the way back and you're asking it to just stand there. We can isolate ourselves from the creator. We can isolate ourselves from source energy and not allow it to fully come into us. So it's giving the creator quality time that actually allows its presence to be able to maintain our life and supervise our life more deeply.
Yeah, it's like you had mentioned, it's allowing, and also just having that intention, I think, first and foremost, is really important. That's where it starts. And what you're also talking about is people owning that power and that responsibility of,
Yeah.
of connecting, where it's not just like, oh, that's for someone has to be ultra spiritual or ultra, whatever to be able to access that. I think we're all divine beings essentially, and it's available to all of us.
It is. It is. We may have just I've noticed that everyone can connect to the creator. It's everybody's birthright.
Mhm.
Some people have just forgotten how to.
Mhm. Yeah.
But it's within everyone. Everyone has access to it. This isn't just a Katie thing. It's not just a Yaakov thing. Like everyone can connect to it. They may have just forgotten how to.
Yeah, and I would say too, for people listening, and I think of myself from a few years ago, and I would have heard something like that, I would have said, well, that's easy for you to say, Katie, you're ultra spiritual. And I think it's definitely available. I'll tell you from firsthand experience. And if people want the how-tos, I believe once you experience it the first time, something opens up. There's just a shift, and it's hard to put it into words. But once you experience it, there's no going back.
Yeah. And that's so true. That's so true. It's like once you have the feeling, it's real. I've had it so many times, Yaakov, where someone's come to me, for a session and they're like, well, I don't really believe in the creator. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in source. I'm like, why are you at a connecting with the creator session? You really signed up for the wrong thing. But it's so funny. By the end of the session, because they've actually had a direct experience, now they're like, oh my God, this is real. All it takes is one experience to know that the creator is real, within inside yourself.
Yeah. And there's no going back.
Yeah, there isn't. Yeah.
If you're looking for more clarity right now, whether that's in your business, career, relationships, or any other area of your life, I've recorded a short training you can use to find more clarity, spiritual genius style. This training is my gift to you for being a listener of the show. To access it, all you have to do is go to spiritualgenius.org/gift. Once again, that's spiritualgenius.org/gift. Now back to the show.
Could you share a story? I know you've been doing this for many years, of a session that you had where maybe someone came in thinking it was going to go a certain way, and then they discovered something completely different, or maybe you thought it was going to go a certain way and there was a big surprise.
Oh my gosh, I have so many stories for you. I don't even know which one to pick. Um, I'll share one. It may not, and if you don't like that one, I'll share another one. But I'll share one because this has got to do with how much the creator has our back and how much the creator actually doesn't want us to suffer. Because there's a lot of beliefs out there that the creator wants to test us, the creator wants us to go through hard lessons. That's actually not true. It's a big myth that I've only come to realize after doing this creator work for so many years. So this woman came to me for a session, and she had met this man, and she was really smitten over him. And she came to me and she said, Katie, I'm coming today because I want validation that he's my soulmate. And I'm like, I'm going all in. I really want to be with him, and she said some really interesting things. She said, we're so connected, me and this guy, that we even dream of the same thing on the same night. Like, that's some form of a strong psychic connection in order for that to happen. Like, they were really getting along. They loved the same things. Like, they were connecting sexually, but also emotionally, mentally. It was just it felt like such a beautiful match for her. And she was towards the beginning of this relationship when she had come in. And so, and they also had a lot of deep conversations. And so I take her into my healing room where we do the work. And I got into a channel, and she was laying down and receiving. And after a while, when the channel got really strong, I felt the creator come through and say to her, my daughter, whatever you do not date this man. He is a very good best friend for you, or a very good friend, but he will not be, he's not meant to be a soulmate, or, like a lover or partner. And so I'm like, oh man, I have to share this with her. I'm going to break her heart right now. But of course I did, because I'm only the messenger. I hear and I spew it out. Mm-hmm. So I shared it with her, and she's like, okay, well, I guess I get it. Okay, sure, we'll stay friends. I could kind of tell, just kind of digesting it, like wrapping her mind around it. And it was almost like she was trying to convince me, but she couldn't even convince herself, right? So she left. And I did not hear back from her, Jaco, for 2 years. For 2 years, I didn't hear back from her. And then all of a sudden, one day, she sends me this message saying, I am feeling so bad. I need an emergency session. Like, I am not feeling good. Like, it was so bad. So we book another session, and she comes in, and she's sitting in front of me on the couch, Jaco, and she is heartbroken. This woman is crying tears, like in absolute agony. And she said that she dated this guy for 2 years, and the guy took her through a roller coaster of hell. At the beginning, it was nice, and they had these beautiful, deep conversations, and they were doing great. But then Jaco, he stole her money. He cheated on her with her best friend, took her through an intense roller coaster of lying and showing up and then disappearing. And she just went through hell for 2 years. And then she says to me, why did God let this happen to me? And I'm like, just say that? Did you just, what? She's like, why would God place him in my life and let this happen to me? And my jaw dropped. And I said to her, do you not remember your session from 2 years ago when the creator said, let him only be a good friend or a best friend that you can talk to and nothing more? And she's like, oh, I forgot. Because she had totally blacked it out, right? Because she didn't want to hear that. And so sometimes we actually think the creator's testing us, but it's not. The creator's actually, right from the get-go, giving us signals to tell us to veer our shit the other way around. But the problem is, because we're in this pandemic where we're not as connected to our hearts anymore and our GPS system, we're not receiving the messages. Or sometimes we do receive the messages, but there's so many other feelings and desires mixed up with it that we just don't want to listen to it. And so most of the time when people think that the creator is testing them, the creator is not. The creator actually did not want them to go through the suffering from the beginning, but they just didn't listen to their own intuition. And I have so many stories like this, Yaakov. So many stories like this where people were given a message, they did otherwise, and then it backfired on them. And because of that, I've really come to know that the creator really wants to protect our path and our decision making and really make sure that we go through the path of least resistance and least suffering and go through the path that's just most joyful and fulfilling for us. The creator is very protective of our joy and our fulfillment.
It's a great story. It exemplifies so many things. This is, as I was listening, it's really interesting that she came to you with that question initially. Tells me that there's, I believe that there was a part of her intuition or heart initially that felt something was a little off. And so she comes to Katie she was seeking validation, but not in the way that she was probably imagining. And then she gets that direct answer. It's not a riddle. She didn't hear a riddle. It was just very direct, and she ignored it and then went through that cycle. So I feel like the biggest thing there is just to be able to listen, right? To listen. And sometimes the best messages, that's how I feel anyway, are the simplest messages. Simplest, most direct. They're not riddles. And sometimes, however, for our spiritual development, we decide, I think this is where free will comes, like she decided to ignore that and go down that roller coaster. And whatever lessons she got, best believe she needed them, and how she integrates that's her journey. But it's so interesting because it's like a fork in the road, right? I think if people just sometimes pause for a second and sit back and allow the answer to come, and like you said, feel through their heart, the fork in the road can save people years of agony. And
yes.
Really, really powerful.
Yes, years of agony. Absolutely. Yeah. I remember I had a dear friend of mine who, just on her wedding day, she couldn't stop crying. And she just could not stop crying, and she didn't know why. And the full wedding, everything went off. Like weird things happened, like a horde of bees came, her face, or crazy stuff like that, and, come to find out that her marriage to this man just ended up being hell, absolute hell. And it was years of agony that just took her down. So I totally agree. And the creator's always trying to protect us from entering into that, for ourselves and also not just for ourselves, but for others too.
Yeah. There's a saying, I believe it's from the Bible, by its fruits you shall know them, or by their fruits you shall know them, right? And so, like if you have that at a wedding, to me, and I think there's also signs can go a little too far. Not everything is necessarily a sign, right?
I completely agree with that.
That could be superstitious.
Yeah, that is can be so superstitious. Yes.
Typically, if you see something blatant, or like 3 in a row, I'm like, shit, I'm paying attention. So nothing's going on here.
Also, too, you can also manifest what you want to see as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll give you another example. We had this other lady in the community. She was really hung up on this man, and she just kept seeing signs of his name every day and his birth date, like in number form. And she kept thinking those are signs that she needs to stay with him. But it was very interesting because at the time he was also doing sessions with me as well. And I knew he had no interest in her whatsoever. Like he was thinking about marrying someone else. Like he was in another world, just somewhere completely different, right? But this poor girl kept thinking these signs she's seeing are signs that she's meant to be with him. So it's so important that we always listen to the inner signs and not look for outer signs. And I also think this is the next level of spiritual maturity as well. There comes a time where you don't keep looking for the angel numbers anymore. You don't keep looking for the butterflies and the feathers, even though those are so sweet and warm. And you know, I'm not poo-pooing any of that. I'm just saying there comes a time where we must learn in our spiritual practice how to listen and get our answers very inwards. And we have to make that transition from not relying on those outer signs because we can literally conjure up outer signs, you know, like this woman who saw his name and her birthday, the guy's birthday for a whole year and kept hanging on.
Yeah, and there's a saying in the psychology world, the RAS, like reticular activation system, right? So if we talk about blue Porsches and then you go for a drive, you're gonna start to see blue Porsches, right?
Exactly.
So energetically, I think we can do that as well. So super, super fascinating. Well,
Yes.
Katie, this has been amazing. We've covered a lot of different topics here. As we start to wrap up, share with us a little bit more. If people want to get to know your work on a deeper level and connect with you online, what do you suggest they do?
They have two options. So one thing I always suggest if people are ready for is a private session. I have a 3-month wait list. So we would have to get them on. But a private session is really beautiful because if anyone has any personal one-on-one questions or healing that they need, it's very personal and it is really tailor-made to what they need. And then I also suggest the Connecting with the Creator class because I feel like the Connecting with the Creator, learning how to channel is such a important tool that everybody needs, you know, to just help people to get through their day-to-day life, to help people to receive the healing that they need. I think connecting to the Creator is the base. It's like the basic foundation of spirituality. And the class is an incredible 4-day class where we teach you how to channel the Creator. We teach you to learn how to access and allow the healing to come through for yourself, for your loved ones, for others. And it's transformative. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, amazing. And we'll have those in the show notes. I think there's definitely something to explore for people. If you're listening to this, you're at all curious, take a look at it. Great resources, great experiences. Like we were talking about earlier, this isn't something you can just go read in a book or, you know, take an online course on. Come experience it. I think it's really, really powerful, especially if you're feeling called in your journey right now to go and explore that. Only good things are going to come from it.
Yeah. And to know that the Creator is so benevolent, like it is literally the most loving source that exists. And so, you know, it never wants anything other than the highest and best for you. You never have to ask the Creator, give me the highest and best. It's never going to give you anything less than the highest and best. That's all the Creator knows how to give. So, you know, by connecting to that, you're connecting to a presence that really has your back in every aspect of your life.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful reminder. Thank you so much, Katie, for being here, for sharing. We'll have the links in the show notes. And thank you again for listening to another episode of the Spiritual Genius Show.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Spiritual Genius Show. Remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star review. When you email a screenshot of your review to info@spiritualgenius.org, we'll send you access to a special training on unlocking more of your spiritual genius in your business or career. Once again, the email address to send that screenshot of your review to is info@spiritualgenius.org. And remember, as always, the content of this episode and every other episode of this show are for entertainment purposes only. No solicitations are being made of the audience, and this show is not in any way intended to provide or be a substitute for any medical, legal, or financial advice. It is strongly recommended that you consult with a licensed professional before making any and all decisions around these matters. Till next time, stay well and remember that your spiritual genius awaits.